Hello, everyone. In today's episode, I'm going to touch on how you can create a life that is essentially the opposite of stressed, confused, and depressed. And the theme is understanding and unraveling the depth behind why we feel how we feel. To learn from how we feel, we first have to admit that we feel a certain way and that current state is not a preferred place to operate from. And this is the not most, but a very challenging aspect of bettering your life is just being so honest with yourself that you cut through the tricks of denial, the craftiness of the mind. See, we all have our biases attached to how we view the world. And it can be very challenging and threatening when we come to this realization that the way that we perceived something was inaccurate, because there can be many other perceptions that were built upon an initial way of seeing something. And therefore, if your foundation crumbles in you admitting that you didn't know, or you were incorrect, or rather, I like this line a lot, I don't know what I don't know, which it leads to an open, growing mindset. And the opposite of that open, growing mindset is really the one of the bigger destructive pieces. But once we admit that how we are right now is not the exact direction that we would like to go, that's powerful. And inevitably, with doing that process enough throughout time, you'll get to a place where you're so confident in the direction that you're headed, and that leaves you on a daily, minute, moment to moment basis with an internal peace. And I mean, the trickiest, one of the trickier parts of life is realizing how to minimize stress. See, there are successful people with status and all this stuff, but if they knew how to reduce and create internal peace, reduce stress and create internal peace, then you truly have something beautiful. For example, we all have seen this before. The celebrities who they have so much attention, all the things that society convinces you create a great life, they have all these things, yet they're addicted to substances which numb their mind. So let's just unravel that. If what society preached created a truly beautiful life, why would there be people who have the things and they they live their lives in a way which are so destructive? And you see it. It's not just one example, which is rare. This is a common reality that the successful people are actually not truly successful, meaning that on the exterior they look as if their lives are perfect, but then inevitably we come to realize through their actions that their their lives are not perfect. So what can we take from that? The truth that we can learn from that example is internal peace is not something that can just be handed to you through external success. There's a difference between true success and what society deems as success. And ideally, you get a balance between the two, meaning you regulate your emotion, you understand the depth of human behavior and psychology, and through that avenue, you can create external success. But it's it's a shame, I guess, when people are misconstrued, they are misguided in a direction which wants and desires a certain thing, a label, a status, attention, etc. When they haven't had the awareness, or someone hasn't made it clear to them that that is not what's going to bring them true internal success. And see, balance is one of the more important concepts for humans to understand, because I feel if you do too much internal stuff without bringing your external with you, what do I mean there? I mean, if you're going to have a deep understanding about health, relationships, psychology, you also want to pair this with some avenue which brings you external freedom as well, in meaning and fulfillment, and an avenue which creates a self-respect, which will ripple effect and create an external respect. See, you cannot share what you don't have. So we want to have this balance between a beautiful internal and a beautiful external. And to conclude this, I would say, when you stray too far to any direction, in any avenue, there's an issue. That being said, there are seasons, and balance is not always down the middle, symmetrical. So take this stuff with a grain of salt. What I'm really leading you to ponder or understand is, intuitively, you will feel when you're out of balance and when you need to adjust if you are honest. It comes back to that initial point. If you can admit that you feel a certain way, and you know that this feeling is not how you would like to feel, then that's the recognition that you're out of balance, and therefore you can get back to balance only once you admit that. The question is, how much pain is one willing to bear? And there's going to be a different threshold for each individual. This being said, I don't want you to get trapped in a cycle of self-pity, anger, despair. What I'm pushing you here to realize is, if you feel a certain way, that's a sign. Uncomfortable emotion is only informing you that something is out of balance. And once you recognize that, you give yourself the power to adjust, adapt, and improve. Inevitably, you can begin to feel better. And in this moment, even by accepting that you're at a place which is not the direction that you would like to go, through that acceptance, you can create internal peace in this moment. And it's this balance of accepting, you can become more peaceful, more strong and authentic, to, in general, understand yourself better. This is the reality. But that being said, there's no need to dwell, to shame, to be angry at yourself. That isn't exactly the solution either. That being said, sometimes you can use anger as fuel, as an inspiration for you to change your actions. It's tricky, but the differentiation, which is important, is understanding what low frequency emotions are versus high frequency emotions. And then you can use them as a game. Let's say you're stuck in a place of anger in general right now, angry at your circumstance, angry at yourself. That's just where you're operating from. See, anger is a higher frequency than the emotions of guilt or shame. And if we practically unravel that, it's because guilt or shame usually does not initiate new positive action. But anger, sometimes, if you use it as fuel to improve, it can be something that actually charges a new cycle of your life. And you don't want to hang on to anger. This is the tricky part. It's a low frequency emotion. That being said, it can be fuel. So use it when you need to. Don't hold the grudge. Use it for yourself as inspiration. Whatever you're angry at, we have to forget that. There's no benefit in being angry at something unless you are actually just using that source of fuel for yourself. So it's nuanced, it's complicated, but inevitably you'll get to a place where more often than not, you're operating from the higher frequency emotions. And this is the beautiful details that truly create a fulfilling, a peaceful, a strong life. And the simplest way to sum it up would be to fill your day with habits and actions which leave you in a high frequency place, because there's this little feedback loop, and it's like your actions lead to your thoughts, and then your thoughts lead to how you feel. And then how you feel, it creates the loop once more and leads back into the actions. Of course, sometimes you don't feel like doing something, but you have the discipline to do the healthy action. That's fine. I'm all for discipline. That being said, we don't want to solely rely on discipline. It's because this was how I was a couple years ago. My habits were not habits that left me in a place of high frequency, but I had an internal burn to become more than I was. So I found myself in this tough place of not feeling like doing the few healthy habits that I had, but I still pushed through. The thing there is healthy habits actually are to be enjoyed. The interesting part is once you fill your days with healthy habits that leave you thinking and feeling good, then it's easier to repeat the healthy habits, hence the feedback loop. That label or concept, which is the feedback loop, this is a priceless thing for humans to understand, because there are so many micro feedback loops that are operating subconsciously that we do not even recognize. And it's very interesting when you understand the depth behind this fact, which is 90 to 95% of what we do is subconscious. We repeat the same thoughts most of the time. In the actions that we do, it's like you can move your finger like this, but am I consciously thinking about doing that? Not really. Like in my mind, I'm not like move finger down, move finger up, move, you know what I mean? It's just me. And what I'm expressing there is just a minor example of the power of the subconscious. Like there are, again, are you telling yourself to breathe or telling your heart to beat? No, that's subconscious. And that's what I'm getting at. And those are just a few example of millions. Seriously, or sincerely, better word than seriously. But there are millions of subconscious processes going on. For example, this is another one that I like a lot. And you really feel this if you pay attention to it. The words don't matter nearly as much as the tone of voice in the being that is speaking. It's like 55% of communication is via tone of voice, 38% body language, and then only 7% is the actual language. Not saying language isn't important. It definitely has these nuances. For example, even words have frequencies. I was speaking about habits and frequencies. A word like hate, low frequency. Appreciate, grateful, beautiful. Oh, those are high frequency words. Um, a few more low frequency words. Flattering versus beautiful. Though that's a difference. And flattering is more of, it's low frequency. It feels a bit like deceptive. It has a manipulative tone to it. And it's interesting how many nuances our reality has if you will look and pay attention. See, this is the tricky thing about society and the truth of reality. Society makes the fancy, glorious, materialistic things like attention and status and position. Those are not exactly what creates a peaceful, fulfilling life. And I am not here to say that people in positions of status, fame, are not healthy. There are surely hundreds of thousands of healthy leaders who have externally made it in terms of societal success. But the truth is, there's also the other half of people who have made it in terms of societal success and are still trapped within the prison of their own mind. And that's that whole differentiation. I make that point just so you understand. It's not that we shouldn't be successful externally. We should be. But we cannot forget about the internal success as well. And that's why I touch on this stuff, because the culture in general has it mixed up. In school systems, they do not talk much about the depth of frequencies on this sort of nuanced, granular level. But that isn't healthy because, see, another example, you listen to music constantly, like rap music that glorifies like robbing people, killing people, stealing, robbing. Haha. But my point is, there's a difference between listening to some classical high frequency music, which is coming from someone's mind at a pure creativity level, a state of mind which is flow, and then someone who's coming from an underdeveloped ego perspective, which is, you know, selling drugs, not understanding how that sale affects someone else. Of course, I'm not here to say, I'm not against, I'm not making a point to attack anyone here. What I'm looking to express is there are many things in our reality that are deeper than culture and society aims to make it seem. And if we can make the average Joe more aware to the depth of reality, then that gives them the opportunity to build a better life. And therefore, through the average Joe becoming healthier and more aware, that spreads. And inevitably, humanity in general becomes healthier and more aware. And I mean, I accept everything as it is. I'm fine with things as they are, but I don't know, just in my personal journey, the route that I've gone from being moderately healthy to feeling how I feel now, you can't put it into words. It's just my heart. I'm speechless. So before you truly get into the details of habits and crafting your lifestyle, I feel we need to just touch gently on the idea of a mission, a direction, and a purpose. It can start however you would like it to begin. For me, I just recognized that my mom was always loving and always caring, and therefore I wanted to help her out and I guess give her the external freedom of not having to work. And that is my mission. But over time, it can segue and turn into something even more powerful. So I just ask you, like, what is your reason for becoming a healthier version of yourself? Because without a strong, powerful, and deep purpose, reason, we will waver. And even with that, we will waver. But as long as your purpose and mission is so strong, you'll never quit. So that leads me into this idea, which I like, the combination of action, iteration, consistency, and trust in a bigger picture. If you keep those concepts like written down or in your head, the head tends to forget things. So it's important to be organized, to have reminders for where you're going around your environment, digitally and physically. And that's another example of the details, like deleting the apps which are leading you into things like comparison and feelings of inferiority through comparison, or just having the awareness to know when you open an app that you're going to do a certain thing for a quick moment and then getting off the phone. This is a simple thing that I truly think will help everyone. It's helped me so much. Less phone equals more joy. Less phone equals more joy. So I'm on social media, doing these things. But the more I realize the power of living in the moment, it inevitably leads me to realize, wait, every time I go on Instagram or something like that, I find myself out of the moment. And if you craft it up where you're following just a few people and they're healthy, inspirational, every time they post something, it leads you to feel high frequency. Exceptions. So I'm not saying delete the app, never use it. I'm saying be intentional, be detailed with when you choose to do what, knowing how what you do leaves you feeling, and understanding how you feel affects that feedback loop which I expressed earlier. See, this stuff is connected. It's interesting. A few practical habits that these are the things that leave me in a high frequency state consistently. Exercising, healthy nutrition, reading, stretching, writing, playing chess, having deep, healthy conversations about, interesting stuff, not gossiping, not that stuff. Studying lectures, podcast, longer form self-education absolutely changed my life. And breath work. All those habits. I wouldn't say something foolish like try them all like right now. Rather, just adopt one throughout time and prioritize being consistent with something, iterating, and just being honest about how it leaves you feeling. I remember first starting to read years ago. Of course, I read in school, but they forced me, so I wasn't a fan. But now, I remember just 10 pages a day was difficult. My mind was not used to channeling my attention in an organized manner. Now, I read for joy. It's, you see what I'm getting at here? What starts hard turns into pure health. And that's the paradoxical, the tricky nature of life, is what starts easy usually turns hard. I remember how amazing it felt when I first began smoking weed in high school. And then, like years later, I realized it gripped me, like it had me. I didn't choose when to do it. It was more like constantly thinking about, oh, cannot wait to do this thing. Therefore, I was not in the present moment one bit. I was always looking forward to something. See, that's another nuance. Being in the moment is the secret. See, if you can just be here now, for a good trick, we can do this together, is to push your fingertips hard enough in a way where you can feel the ridges, the texture of your skin. And then as I'm doing this, I'm also pushing and realizing, my toes, I'm putting my toes into the ground in a way where there's like this friction, and it brings you into the moment. And therefore, you can't be thinking about what this girl thinks of me, what I said in this conversation. Was that foolish? Did I say something dumb? You can't be thinking about bull like that. And when you do this stuff, you train your attention, your awareness to a point. This is also done through breath work. You train your awareness to a point where you catch yourself thinking, and then you realize, oh my gosh, 99% of my thinking is not positive. It's usually like stressed or anxious or negative or worrisome, etc. So what I'm getting at here is you'll get to this point where once you have your structures, your habits, your systems, your lifestyle, your direction, your purpose, all of this foundational stuff in place, you'll get to this point where you realize, wait, I don't have to think nearly as much as I thought I did. And when the less you think, the more present you are, the more in the moment your life is. And through this presence, you come to realize, wait, I know not everyone's had a good childhood, but those of you who had a good childhood, for me, all I did was run around and play, some video games, but for the most part, outside, falling down, falling down and not caring, playing sports, not thinking. And I could recall, like, what happened? There was this shift in my consciousness when I shifted from a child who was free to a stressed adolescent who was constantly in self-pity, in self-criticism, self-judgment, etc. And I for years could not understand what happened. How did how did my mind become the way that it was? And now I can look back through the education I have, the wisdom, dare I say, the wise dumbass I refer to myself as. I can see, oh, you went from living in the moment to living in your head, and now I'm back to living in the moment. And that's why I do this, essentially. There's many reasons. So if you think that there's any potential for us to craft your lifestyle in a way where you become more peaceful, healthier, confident, I'm doing one-on-one. It's not work. It's one-on-one flow, one-on-one growth together. 6-month program, nothing less, because great things take time. And I'm not here to play games with people. I'm here to level up with people. If you are sincere about yourself and willing to invest in yourself, just shoot me a DM on Twitter, join the email list, and you can get more information there. Limited slots, not taking on too many people. So we have to be of this nature where things will mesh. Then, beautiful things will unfold. If you've enjoyed this, all I ask, just many benefits from doing this. It's self-expression. It's enjoyable for me. That being said, I know there are going to be people like my younger self who come across this and are like, that was just tremendously helpful. And I want those people to see this. How do they see it? If you enjoyed this, just drop a like. If you want to support me further, reply. Let's have a little conversation. I appreciate you. Enjoy yourself.